Boys, just a few weeks ago, weekish ago, we had our favorite Baldy in the UFC announce some good fights. And to be honest, yeah, they're good fights, but we knew these fights were going to happen. JDM, we knew that was going to happen. Whaley versus Shevchenko, we knew that was going to happen. The only semi-surprising one is Carlos Pratas and Leon Edwards. That's the only really surprising one. And I'm looking through these announcements. I was fucking waiting for hours for that bald guy to just show up on my screen, waiting for his little thing to say live. Because I'm hoping we get, some Ilia news. We get some Volkanovski news. I'm just hoping we get some big fight announcements. And yes, they were big, but again, we knew these were going to happen. With that being said, I have some fights here in every single division that we need to see by the end of the year. And not only do we need to see these are just realistic matchups that can 100% happen within the next 3 months. With that being said, I don't have any for light heavyweight. I feel like light heavyweight, the matchups that I wanted to happen have happened, and there's nothing realistic that could happen within the next 3 months. So I'm happy with light heavyweight. Heavyweight though, again, I'm semi okay with heavyweight right now. Some of the big key names are fighting right now. And I think the only one that I really care about is Derrick Lewis and Waldo Cortes Acosta. I don't know who else either of these dudes fight next. It makes sense for both of these dudes. I believe both of them have called each other out. And just recently, Derrick Lewis called out Costa. Costa coming off that loss to Pavlovich. It makes sense. Run this one next. I low-key lied because I'm looking at this division right now. I need to see Shamil, Gaziev, and Tuivasa sometime this year. I need to see the battle of the blobs. I want to see who jiggles the most. Pause. I need some jiggle physics in this octagon. And yeah, we need to see this matchup. Again, it's the only logical matchup for Tuivasa that I want to see, But he's pushing 300 pounds. I'm hoping we get him slimmed down for, even if we can get him for the last pay-per-view of the year. That would be nice. But yeah, heavyweight, I'm okay with how heavyweight is right now. Let's keep moving down to middleweight, because middleweight, I'm also pretty happy with how it's going. Chimaev, there's no real matchup I could give him right now that makes sense, especially in 3 months. We have Nasruddin Imavov fighting, we have RDR fighting, Hernandez fighting, Brawley fighting. Whitaker just fought, so I don't think he's going to have a quick bounce back by the end of the year. And then I don't really care for many other guys. I want to see MVP versus maybe the loser of one of these big matchups that I just said. I don't really want to see him versus a Whitaker or something like that. But the matchup that I want to see that looks like it could happen in December, I need to see Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya too. Let's be realistic. That's the only matchup for Izzy that one really makes sense and one that he would probably take. This dude talks about, I'll fight anyone, and then says he only wants to fight Sean Strickland or Paulo Costa. So, I would rather see the Strickland fight than the Costa one. And yeah, other than that, middleweight is fine right now. Welterweight though, needs some work, because welterweight right now, yes, we just got that title fight announced, but other than that, we got Pratas and Edwards. We're still missing a lot of key players here. I want to see a number one contender fight of, Sean Brady versus a Ian Garry. You could do Ian Garry or a Shavkat here. I don't know if Shavkat's ready to go by the end of the year. Both Ian and Brady should be ready to go by this year. And again, I don't know what the deal is with Shavkat, how long he needs to be off, but I don't think it's realistic to have him here. That's why he's just not on this list. But moving down, another grudge match, another fight that we need that could be low-key a number one contender type of fight depending on who wins. I got Belal versus Kamaru Usman. We need to see this fight before the year is over. It makes sense, and again, this is one of those fights where it just sells itself, and the UFC would be retarded if they don't make this matchup. I know Kamaru is being a little bit of a diva right now and not wanting to fight Belal. He wants to go straight up to a title fight. With this whole JDM versus Makhachev situation, everything is logjam. So you're going to have to fight one more time. So I would love to see this fight, especially on that December pay-per-view. Is it too hard to ask to get this on a December pay-per-view? Both these dudes should be ready to go. That being said, last one I have here for welterweight. You guys have to hear me out on this one because it's Colby Covington and Gilbert Burns. I don't want to go into 2026 with a bunch of unks in the UFC. This is a double retirement fight. I need both these dudes to be retired from the sport because as we've seen in their last few fights, they're just simply not the same fighters. And we don't need to see them here anymore. They had their time. They had some great fights and it is what it is. We don't need to see them in the UFC anymore. It was great having them while they were here. But again, they are way past their prime. And it would be a different story if they looked good in the last few fights. But both of them look like hot garbage. Especially, oh, it hurts so hard. It hurts so much to say, but especially Gilbert. You know, my boy was shredded to the gills. Looked like he was so locked in. And then Morales just steamrolled him. And I don't think it's just because Morales is that good. I just think Gilbert is, it's time for Gilbert to just be a full-time podcaster. With that being said, lightweight division. If you guys weren't paying attention during the weekend when we had that little bit of a break from the UFC, our boy El Cucuy got it done. With that being said, El Cucuy gained a win in Big 2025. I have simply seen enough. Ilia Topuria versus Tony Ferguson. I need this fight by the end of the year ASAP. I'm just kidding. I would love to see Tony stay at Misfits. I don't need to see him in the octagon anymore. But Topuria, I want to see Topuria fight at least one more time this year. And it just makes sense to do him versus Paddy build up wise. Is Paddy the most deserving? No. Is Paddy gonna be next? Probably not. But just build up wise and, you know, the hype you can surround yourself and the hype that you could build with this fight. I need it to be Paddy. That being said, we get a number one contender fight here with Arman versus Gaethje. It's still as good. Regardless, I think Gaethje's next fight is his retirement fight because I don't think he wins his next fight regardless of who it is. And mainly because it's either going to be someone like a Ilia Topuria or an Arman. You know, those are the only two fights I think Gaethje's getting next. It doesn't make sense to do Paddy versus Gaethje. It's literally going to be Ilia or Arman. And I think both these dudes beat Gaethje. So, yeah, I need to see these two lightweight fights before the end of the year. You know, put Arman and Gaethje on the December card and put Ilia versus Paddy on the November card. I would like to, I don't know. I see I'm saying all this stuff, but then I'm realizing like a lot of these cards are already stacked with some good title fights. So I don't think this is going to happen unless we want to have a absolutely stacked card. A lot of these are probably going to happen towards the beginning of the year, unfortunately, which is so stupid because Ilia literally fought a good while ago and took 0 damage. It's retarded. But moving down to featherweight, the only thing in featherweight that I really need to see by the end of the year, I'm looking through the division and I'm not itching here and fiending to see a new Steve Garcia fight or a new Yusuf Zalal or Josh M. You know, I'm not fiending for that. I am fiending though to see another Volkanovski masterclass, and I think it's gonna be against Lerone Murphy. Unless they want to do, you know, an Aljamain, but I don't, honestly, who sells more, Aljo or a Lerone Murphy? I don't know. They're both not selling that great. Murphy maybe just because of his recent performance, but I could also see the UFC wanting to kill Volkanovski and waiting to see what happens between Silva and Lopez and giving Silva the title shot. I don't want to see Silva get a title shot while Volk is champ. I need to see Volk versus, you know, Murphy, Evloev, and Sterling get those 3 easy wins. And then he can retire. And then we can see Gene Silva reign over this division. But yeah, for featherweight, that's all I really have here. Bantamweight, pretty similar. You know, there's not many ranked dudes here that I need to see. Bantamweight is pretty well off this year. You know, I don't think it'll be realistic for any of these top-ranked contenders really fight again. However, some unranked dudes that I need to see fight this year. Payton, Talbott, Cody, Garbrandt. I need to see this one happen. I was going to put like Adrian Yanez after Payton Talbott's last win over Felipe Lima. I think he missed his chance, you know. I think he can get a higher level matchup than a Adrian Yanez, but other than that, I think a fight that has been rumored a lot, not official though, but rumored a lot that I think would be crazy, Malcolm Wellmaker versus Alexandre Topuria. I think this would be a crazy fight. Again, if we're having Topuria fight this year, at the end of the year, put this on that same card. We need that one. We need to have both the brothers there. Maybe they don't like fighting on the same card, so if that's not a possibility, put it on like a co-main event of one of these fight night cards. I wouldn't be mad about that, but let's get into flyweight. Flyweight, obviously it has to be Pantoja versus Van. There is no other fight here that makes sense for title picture wise, and arguably one of the most hyped up flyweight title fights that we've had in recent MMA history. I can't remember another flyweight title fight. Maybe one of the rematches between Moreno and Figgy, maybe like that, but I don't know. This is one of the most hyped flyweight fights that we've had in a very long time. Other than that, I would love to see some Unk versus Unk violence. Someone in my comments actually put this in the matchmaking video that I made, and honestly, genius. I need to see Tim Elliott versus Charles Johnson, battle of the Unks. Johnson recently just getting top 13 in the rankings. Tim Elliott ranked number 10. I need to see this. Winner of this can get into the top 5-ish area. And at the end of the day, it's time that we reward these Unks. But with that being said, let me know in the comments below, what are some realistic matchups that you need to see by the end of this year? Those are mine. Those are mine. I don't think it's realistic we see people like a Sean O'Malley, a Peter Yan, especially because Peter just recently fought. I would say someone like a Sean O'Malley versus a Song Yadong. I just don't think it happens this year. But yeah, let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching to the end of the video, and I will see you guys in my next video.